Good morning from live from CTIA Wireless 2012. We are in New Orleans in the convention center. I am joined by Mr. Mark Lewis and Mr. Michael Olivier from the Louisiana Technology Council, and of course you all know Mr. Michael Crane from Aguavas. How are you today, gentlemen?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Fantastic.
Welcome to New Orleans.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. A fantastic city, and the hospitality in this city has been wonderful.
We're glad you enjoy that. You probably enjoy the food as well.
I might be enjoying the food. I have to tell you, when our crew first came on Sunday, I think we must have had numerous amounts of dozens and dozens of oyster plates, just over and over again. Fantastic Creole food, wonderful jazz, and of course the CTIA puts on a grand conference. Technology is our ecosystem. We love it, and we love to eat, and we love to listen to some great jazz. So wonderful hospitality, gentlemen. For all the viewers out there in BNet TV land, if you could introduce yourselves again and give me a brief background on what the Louisiana Technology Council is.
Well, my name is Mark Lewis. I run the Louisiana Technology Council, and we're an organization that does events and programs to help with the economic development of the technology industry, not just information technology, but across all industries. And so we're engaged in bringing users and producers of technology together, and over the last 4 years we've done extremely well as Louisiana has really grown from a technology employment standpoint, and that's our mission, working with not only the state but with other organizations to make that happen.
Michael.
Well, I'm involved as a volunteer. As the chairman for this year and last, I've been charged with the responsibility of providing the leadership from the private sector perspective as a volunteer to work with Mark and his staff and the other 1,500 members of the Louisiana Technology Council, which is a statewide organization. My day job is I work for a group called the Committee of 100, which is a private sector funded non-government group. I call it a super chamber on steroids. That is a statewide organization composed of senior level executives, primarily CEOs of Louisiana-based companies that are interested in business and economic development in the state of Louisiana.
And Michael Crane, I run global business development for a company called Aguavas. We are a software company based out of Silicon Valley with offices and people around the world providing information technologies, primarily analytics, to the carrier space and other major vertical markets such as oil and gas and utilities and healthcare.
CTIA again puts on a fantastic conference. We've seen a lot of buzz and activity, some great news that's come out of this conference. Normally it has been in New Orleans in the past. In the number of last 7 years it's been in Las Vegas. So it's great to be back in the city, which is fantastic, but one of the things that I'd like to talk about is what is the state of Louisiana doing to attract young startup companies in an economy that is still recovering and where technology is, globally just a driving force of getting out of a global recession.
Well, if I might address that, my other hat is I'm a former Secretary of Economic Development for the state of Louisiana. So from 2004 to 2008, which the Hurricane Katrinas and Rita impacted our state economy and our people in 2005, August, followed by a tragic oil spill that occurred off the Gulf, which impacted one of our mainstays of our economy. And so we have been focusing on 12 targeted industry areas, one of which is technology, absolutely. And so Louisiana has been committed to strengthening our state's incentive programs to bring about a level of engineering capital and creative capital and growing our knowledge-based infrastructure. And to do that, we offer one of the strongest incentives for software and game development. We offer a very competitive environment for producing interactive content. Louisiana has a very pro-business climate. We've been able to build a very customized approach to every industry sector that we choose to attract to our state. Now, beyond that, we've been successful in that because people have come here as a result of helping us in the recovery process. They've noticed areas of the state that they enjoy. And so, take New Orleans as an example. We lost a lot of population after the storms, but we've gained populations through some of those people from other parts of the United States and the world who've recognized that, this is a pretty nice place to live. And we like the atmosphere, we like the ability to take these new technologies, in particular the film industry and the digital media industry, have been one of the leaders in that growth and rebuild back that we've been looking for here in Louisiana.
You know, I have to give Mike a lot of credit, because when I was president, and still am president of the Louisiana Technology Council, he was a major driver in making sure technology was on the forefront of people's minds. And so we took that support with Louisiana Economic Development and began to implement programs that would help technology companies, not just specifically technology companies, but technology across all industries, whether it's banking, lawyers, hotels, it didn't matter. So with the incentives that the state has put forth, the tax credits he's talked about, there's a new angel investor tax credit. There's a lot of incentives for people to do business here, in addition to what Mike said about the ambience of coming to Louisiana and the food and the entertainment and the creative class. We talked about musicians are a creative class.
We did talk about that.
We're getting more and more people have these great and unique ideas that typically they had these ideas, but they take them somewhere else. Now they're staying in Louisiana, and we're helping those groups of entrepreneurs develop that business. And so that's been a key front. And I give him a lot of credit for starting that phase and having that leadership. And now with the current leadership, both in New Orleans and at the state level, we continue to go up substantially.
I think, Michael, you would agree with me that the infrastructure that exists within Silicon Valley has grown and grown and grown and grown. So it's very centric for small companies and startups to run to Silicon Valley, because the angel investment community is there, the venture funds are there, there are other creative technologies exist. But as you both gentlemen has said, you've come from, what did you say, position number 49 into position number 32 in
the last 4 years in terms of technology employment.
Right.
And that's very significant. People didn't view Louisiana as a state where technology was an industry. We changed people's mindset. We had to change it in Louisiana first to get people to believe that technology could be an industry. Now people are looking outside our state and saying, wow, you guys are doing all these great creative things. We're now attracting more business. Even the larger companies like Cisco and Oracle just made a major investment in our organization because they see the growth and the development.
Michael Crane, what are some of the things that you look for as a business leader when you want to open up additional offices across the states and you're looking at different geographies?
You know, listening to you guys talk about what Louisiana is doing, which is fantastic, and I think having the insight and foresight to see what it takes to actually grow from 49 to 32 in a short period of time, that's amazing. You know, we're a small company and growing very quickly. We are actually we're doubling in size every quarter about in the area of software and engineering. And I recently read, you know, the great melting pots on the planet Earth, there's a few of them around. One of them is California, and one of them is the Silicon Valley. And that attributes greatly to
And California went through its own economic strides.
And it has. And but it's the people. Is the people of the leadership, and also the fact that we've got a great mix. And I've just observed here in Louisiana, I'm starting to see some of that kind of mix of people, and you need that to actually grow a technology base or any other base. So
a lot of people,
I think that's important.
A lot of people say, well, they're worried about quality people.
Absolutely, you got to have a talent
hiring
pool.
And the talent pool.
Sure.
Diversity is also important. And what you'll see over the last 2 years, Louisiana is number 2 in the country in technology employment growth. In fact, New Orleans was number 1 in the country in information technology job growth in 2010. Now, why is that the case? Because the state has issued quality jobs credits where they're actually providing tax incentives to organizations to train and develop people. That, I think, is key. I think it's number 1 in the country, if I remember correctly, in terms of quality jobs and incentives. You would know more about that.
Well, it's grown to be number 1 in the country because of the fact the way it's applied. Every state has a training program. It just depends on how you apply it. What Louisiana has chosen to do is to take a model that has been accruing over the years and make it very specific to that industry and combine it with a number of other incentives to, again, based on what target industry we want to attract. We're very specific. Now, we have incentives for all business and industry, certainly, but we have some very specific that are very, very, very unique. For instance, and basically it emanated from the film tax credit
Okay.
program. So, as an example, the digital media tax credit provides a 25 tax credit for all of the production expenditures that are in-state costs. So we give you a tax credit of 25% on that. We also give you a 35% tax credit for all of the Louisiana resident labor expenditures.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, you can take those tax credits and you can sell them.
Fantastic. All right.
That in itself has created another industry
Okay.
in Louisiana. And then on top of that, we have another thing called the Technology Commercialization Credit and Jobs Program, which provides a 40% refundable tax credit.
Oh, there's a key word, I
Which,
think.
which for companies that invest in the commercialization of technology, that's a big incentive to them. And on top of that, we give them a 6% payroll rebate for the creation of new jobs, hiring Louisiana residents, people that are going to live here. Now, they can come from someplace else, but as long as they live here and work here, we will
So
give
can you
6%.
a company can relocate its
Exactly.
particular teams as long
Which
as
is
they're living
why
within the state?
you were
Okay.
mentioning, Michael, you were both talking about Silicon Valley. We've been fortunate enough, I don't think a month goes by that we don't have a company from the Silicon Valley area locating to Louisiana. Either small companies relocating or, and the tax incentive is a driver. It really is. And the technology has enabled them to be able to do that. But at the same time, they have to have that, if you would call it, landscape of technology base from which to work, which means people.
Right.
And Michael, you were big on the people side, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a story. We had a company, and I'll say who they were, GE Aviation, which today has 80 plants globally.
Okay.
And they're looking for an exponential growth over the next many decades in terms of aerospace activities. They make engines, they build engines, jet engines. And so what they're doing now requires that these 80 plants are going to grow. And so they're looking for other places, and they don't want to put one big plant in one place. They want to have plants of 300, 400, 500 people in different areas. But they need to have an area that can be supported. And so we were asked by one of our senators, Mary Landry, to support a program where they would come and test the waters of the labor market in Louisiana to see what kind of a labor market existed here. And it was really for the intention of attracting those people to their plants in other places.
Okay.
After they got here, and we put them at one of our universities on purpose, which is Louisiana Tech University, which happens to have an aerospace program, they were so awed that now we're talking to them about the potential for putting their next plant in Louisiana, because they realize that the infrastructure is here in terms of the people, the educated people, the competitive people, the engineers that they would need, and the support that they would need.
Well, you bring up a really good point about the education. If you don't have a good educational facility with, close by, then you don't really have the talent pool to be able to pull from unless you're stealing it from other companies, and that's just not going to be a good environment.
It's the exact reason why our state government has, and the current administration has been focusing on education, taking from our previous governors since Mike Foster, Kathleen Blanco, and on. They focused on education from K through 12 and higher education. After the Hurricane Katrina here impact, we had to rethink and rebuild our school system. Today, our schools are entirely different than they were in 2005. In New Orleans, the majority of our schools are entirely different and are operating under a totally different model. And that model today now is being legislated as we speak in our state legislature to spread that in a statewide program.
I believe it's today that they're legislating it as well. I
That's
was
correct.
fortunate enough to be at the National Policy Summit last week where Governor Jindal was speaking.
That's right.
And I give him a lot of credit. Between him and Chris Christie, I was very impressed with both of them and their efforts in the educational arena in pushing to make sure that the money is being put to proper use.
Well, it's a matter of giving people choice.
Right.
And being able to go to those better performing schools. And what we've seen in the model is the charter school programs have provided the environment for better performing schools. And if they're not performing, then the charter's pulled.
That's brilliant. It's an OBS tactic.
That's right.
Accountability.
It
all
is
about
accountability, and that is great. And I think that a lot of other states can actually learn from that, because if there isn't the talent pool that's being created on an educational level, then those people they're going to go somewhere else.
So if we've got a better talent base from which to draw, we're going to be able to attract the technology industry and other industry that want to produce in Louisiana taking advantage of the other resources, both natural and people resources that exist here in Louisiana, as well as the cultural resources now. Again, we're going to use Louisiana's charm, if you will, its culinary attraction, its music, and all of those things on top of what we got, these incentives, to build Louisiana into a better place. So it all emanates though from education. We start K through 12 and into higher education. So there's a renaissance of education all the way across the board going on in Louisiana right now.
So
Yeah,
you've
I
gone-
was
go
going
ahead.
to say, there's one other thing I noticed, and I heard this yesterday, and it goes back to my comment on what do you need? Your question is, what does a company like ours look for? You know, when we're going to move or add people, and we're no different than a lot of other companies. And again, it's infrastructure. It's a foundation, which is
Yeah.
people, plants, and other things. And one of the things that I heard, and because of Katrina, there's a lot of fiber optic that was laid here in New Orleans. In fact, it's one of the most fiber-rich cities in the country.
I think people fail to recognize that Louisiana is also the headquarters of the third largest telecommunications company in North America, CenturyTel.
Okay.
It's located in Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay.
And so it's not very well known. Their footprint,
I did not know that.
their footprint is in almost 40 plus states. And so with that, Monroe is not exactly the largest city in Louisiana. It's probably the 5th or 6th largest city in Louisiana, but that's their headquarters. That is their base.
What are some of the challenges that you see coming up within the next 12 months here that the Louisiana Technology Council is addressing, because you can see them coming?
I would say some of the challenges that we have is getting the word out and promoting exactly what we have. You know, people just don't look at Louisiana as only as a place to have fun.
Do you
It's
think that
really-
people still have that mentality, and sort of interrupt, that you know, well, they're still recovering from Katrina, so they don't have that?
And we're wrestling alligators.
And absolutely, right, for sure. I mean, there's no
And you're
question
getting ready
about
for the
it.
next hurricane.
That's right.
It's educating the marketplace on everything that we have that people could benefit from and use to grow their business. Whether they come here to do business or relocate it, the incentives are tremendous, and the support mechanism and the leadership that we have across the state is better than it's ever been, thanks to Mike and starting that from the beginning. So we have such a great story to tell. We need to get that story out, and it's getting out late. You saw that there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about CEOs being Louisiana is really one of the top places now to do business. There's a lot of great publicity that we're getting, and we're just on the forefront of exploding. I personally, and our job as Louisiana Technology Council is to support that, to nurture it, to bring these users and producers of technology together and help them grow that business.
And Tony, one of the things that we've learned is business recovery after catastrophic events. And so we've been a wealth of information that's been offered not only to other states where catastrophic events occur, whether it's a flood, earthquake, whatever,
Right?
all over the place. And we've had people from other countries who've come and asked our assistance when before we were asking for other. We're offering that now. It gives, and the harnessing of the technologies, just with dealing with interoperability,
Right.
is a huge issue that we found to be a big negative for us, and we're still not there yet.
Do you export that expertise? I mean, that's an
Absolutely.
exportable item. Right? You should
Absolutely.
be-
We've been exporting it to places like Colombia and Ireland and other places, and China as well. And we've taken what we've learned. We're offering that. We've got people who have been in demand in terms of offering that. But I want to answer something about the Louisiana Technology Council, and I was asking Mark earlier. We were talking about the number of technology councils that are statewide organizations, and he ventured to say that perhaps there were 20 or less than 30, let's say. Now, there are technology councils that are more regional, may be municipal-wide or just regional in nature, so there are not a lot of statewide technology councils, and that's what we determined because this technology council started as the New Orleans Technology Council. It has expanded under Mark's leadership over the past few years to a statewide presence. And so to expand that footprint, we have to do that by establishing all of these partnerships with other organizations, which means everything from economic development organizations to other technology groups to chambers of commerce, etc. And all of that is to promote, identify, and help Louisiana technology assets become better known, and also the assets to become accessible. One of the things we're doing right now is we are doing a technology inventory
Okay.
of all of the assets. It's easy to do pretty much federal and state owned technology resources. What's not so easy are the private resources that are available, and even more difficult are how to access them, is the access of the technology resources, because we need to use that as another.
There has to be a reason to come to the council and
Exactly.
say, hey, either I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this on their own, or I'm going to leverage off the abilities that you're bringing to the table. And that's what I would want if I'm walking to the door to you.
Sure.
It's like, well, what are you going to provide for me? It's membership driven, correct?
Yeah, we're totally membership driven, and we're an independent nonprofit, which means we
Right.
don't get any outside funding. We have to generate.
Which, by the way, I
revenue.
disagree with all you politicians out there, but okay.
Now,
could
any
use
viewers
your
want to send
support.
us some money to help, we'd be happy to take that.
You couldn't believe.
there's a follow Twitter below your screen right now. Okay.
You wouldn't believe how much farther we would be if we had some more
Okay.
financial resources to be able to.
So
to
how
do
do you
that.
go out and get those resources outside of just increasing your membership dues or
Well, what Mark's
membership
done over
base?
the past decade is devised a number of programs that have been very unique and appealing to people who are in technology and the applications of technology, and that is from the municipal and governmental levels, statewide or otherwise, to the private sector. And Mark, the Homeland Security program that you do.
We
Talk
did the
about that.
first annual Homeland Security right after 9/11 on the role of technology in Homeland Security. And we've actually now, we had a lot of federal people come down and we're educating the marketplace. And now Louisiana's taken a leadership role in a lot of the Homeland Security efforts. And they look to the Governor's Office of Homeland Security for some of the things that they've implemented to help plan, prepare, and recover from any kind of disaster. One of the things I'm really proud of is that we do a national CIO forum every year. We've had the CIO of Microsoft, Adobe, Walmart, and those people come down to New Orleans and talk about technology innovation. So what's key about that is when you get these leaders coming to Louisiana, New Orleans, they go, wow, I didn't realize all that stuff was going on in Louisiana, because we get to educate them on the great initiatives that are going on here. So they go back and their perception of Louisiana has changed. It's like, wow, they're doing some really proactive, great things. I never knew they did that. So that opens the door for us to attract more people to come to Louisiana and do business. That's a huge deal for us, and we've done that for the last 7 years. So these are the kind of programs that we want to implement to educate the marketplace about what's going on in the state.
What does Louisiana, one of the other things I was just sitting here thinking, what are the pillars to technology companies surviving, the very aggressive and intense environment that technology is, and the speed at which it changes? And one of them is speed. So when we look at a place to put a new office or put new people, we look at how fast can we get up and running with what is there. And so if we can't get up and going fast, we cannot go there. And so one of the things that it'd be interesting to actually hear you guys mention, because we're actually looking for places to locate new people, is how fast and what does the state do, and what do you do to help a small company or a large company grow their division or grow their company quickly? It's not so much, tax incentives are great and you need to retain capital, but you need to move fast.
Well, you talked about the infrastructure already and the fiber connectivity.
Right, so that's one.
And then we also have the Louisiana Optical Network Initiative, and that is a connection between universities and large businesses across the state. They're interconnected. Every university is interconnected to this optical network initiative. That was something under your watch during the implementation of that, right, Mike?
It was under the Blanco administration, the LONI, as its acronym is, we determined that we needed to put these universities together in these critical points of resources that are technology resources, from the computers that we have in our state that are immense, from the NASA installation to the installation of the Corps of Engineers right there in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is right on the Louisiana border, to Louisiana State University, University of Louisiana, etc. We have a number of significant resources available to us, and I know your business is dealing with large-scale data, and obviously you have to have the machines to be able to access, and that's one of the things the optical network does, is give access to these points of immense resources that are available in this Louisiana area.
Now, I will as far as what we do as the Technology Council is you would come to me and say, okay, here are my basic needs. And so you're interested in looking at, so I take all the resources that we have access to, and I would develop a plan along with Louisiana Economic Development to meet all those needs and see what those resources are. So every company, since they're different, then we would address those needs based on what you want to do here in Louisiana, and then we would match those needs. And we have every resource, I personally believe, based on our success, that can help you out. A perfect example is LIGHT. It's the Louisiana Immersive Technology Enterprise. It's a big group out of Lafayette, Louisiana. They do 3D modeling. It's one of the biggest supercomputers they have in the world that's located there. They have great 3D modeling initiatives that they're doing. So I can put you in touch with resources across the state that can help you. That's what we do.
Because you want to allow companies like ours to compete.
Absolutely.
And compete quickly. You know, be up and running quickly.
But not only can I help you compete, I can get you in front of people that might need your resources or might need to do business with you. And we have that contacts throughout the state that I can put you in contact so you can do business with them, because you're not going to come down here without the ability of wanting to connect to people to do business. That's what we do best.
I like it. I like where you guys are coming from, and I like to see that Louisiana is very up on creating acronyms for. You've thrown out maybe 5 or 6 of them. I'm like, wow, okay, all right. So you're in the game.
It's my old IBM acronym days.
I like that. I like that very much. Okay, well, let's say final questions here for you gentlemen. We're sort of running short of time. I'm getting the wrap-up signal here, but if you had to give that, that 30-second elevator pitch, why are you coming to Louisiana? Go for it.
Well, people come and would want to come to Louisiana because we are a growing economy. We can connect people. We bring users and producers of technology together, and you're going to grow your business. I mean, we're the top economic development states in the country. Louisiana is one of the top technology states in the country. We're the best place to do business, I think, based on all the resources and what we're doing to help companies grow.
And over the past decade, Louisiana has an immense economic development effort driving us in the marketplace of the economic development world, from being mediocre to always being now listed in the top 10 relative to success stories, performance. And so you can see that from even the times that we had to suffer the storms, and then coming back, we went from being a storm-ridden business recovery state to being named in 2007 as the State of the Year by several professional economic development magazines and publications. And we've maintained that position, and if we're not State of the Year, we're Co-State of the Year. And that is based on not just a want or a story, it's based on performance. In other words, the number of companies that have located here, the number of big projects that have located here, but also the number of small businesses that have been growing here. So all of that says that Louisiana is a good place to live and do business.
Well, there's no question that I am much more sold on the idea that the infrastructure exists, and that the state and local governments are willing to extend a hand to help attract new business, which is always great for entrepreneurs for sure. And you can't go wrong with the food and the jazz. I mean, that's just an added incentive.
You know, I was going to say, one of the things that I like coming here, and I've been coming here for a number of years, and maybe you didn't realize that this is probably a big asset, but people are welcomed here. I think hospitality. And listen to you guys talk. You want people here. You know, people want to go where they're wanted.
Yeah, that's very true.
And companies want to go where they're wanted. And I think, promote that as
not locking people out.
That's what we do best, though. We want people to come here, and guess what? The reason why we're successful is because we help them. We help them grow, their business grows, and it's just a perfect scenario for Louisiana and all the things that we have to offer. It really is. We're excited about it. I'm not even from the state either. I love this state.
Gentlemen, that's all the time we have today on this morning's show. I appreciate all of your efforts. Mark Lewis, Michael Olivier. It's the French part in you, right? Michael Crane, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to speak with us today on the show. For all of you out there in BNet TV land, we are coming to you live from the floor for the rest of the next 2 days here at CTIA Wireless 2012 from New Orleans, Louisiana. Stay tuned for the 1 o'clock show. It's Women in Wireless.